Welcome back everybody to the Joe's Moon Show for today's video here in a brand new series I'm doing here. I know I'm doing another brand new series, but we're going to do another one here with college football coming up here and a whole bunch of stuff really coming out today. Of course, past the whole forced week one, I kind of don't really count week zero because it's never anything good, but let's get into the good stuff. Finally starts this week with, of course, week one finally after last night is in the book, and let's get into some of the biggest matchups here. And I'm going to break it down here for you guys. So, first up here, obviously, one of the big games of the week here, TCU versus Colorado. Deion Sanders' first game coaching Colorado. Of course, it's not exciting just because of that, but also the new recruits they have in which Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. Who, if you're wondering, yes, he is Deion Sanders' son. So maybe a little family favoritism there, but he's pretty good, I'll say that. But it was a great game. I think both sides played very well. I think I did expect TCU to win this game, but I felt like it would be a close affair. And it definitely was a very close affair. I think overall both teams looked very good, so I definitely don't expect TCU to drop out that much in the rankings. I think they kept fighting and they were pretty good. I think it was 45-42, and it was back and forth pretty much the whole game. I think both sides, it was a well-coached game. I think Deion Sanders, for his first game as a coach at this big level, he was in a different D1 before, but now he's, of course, in the actual 100% D1. And having to play a team against, that is TCU, of course, obviously, the runner-up last year for the national championship. It's going to be a tough matchup. And I think he did a spectacular job. I think Shedeur Sanders threw past 500 yards in the game, which is spectacular, especially for your first game of this kind of competition. Throwing for 500 yards is very impressive. He was doing it through the air, and he was definitely also playing an active role in the run game as well. Which, of course, from a quarterback in this day and age, is something you like to see. And he definitely gave them a lot of great things. So I think Colorado fans have a lot of excitement here to, get in here and to see what can happen, because honestly they definitely could be a college football playoff team if things can hold out. So obviously, of course, now the college football playoffs, now finally 12 teams instead of 4, thank God, because it was so boring that was only 4 teams that made it. So thankfully we're going to get probably hopefully a little bit of parity. I don't know how exactly it'll work out, but at least it'll be better than just only 4 teams. But yeah, definitely I think Colorado, a lot of great things, but the big story of Colorado here, Travis Hunter, the cornerback and wide receiver. Yes, he does play both. He's pretty much the Shohei of college football right now. And he looked great. He had one interception, I think 3 breakups. He didn't give up much on the cornerback when he was playing cornerback. Then receiving wise, I think he had over 100 yards and a touchdown. So a lot of excitement there, I think, for Colorado. And honestly, just draft wise, for the next 2 years, I think Shedeur Sanders is this year, and then Travis Hunter is going to be next year. But they both look like very interesting options, and it's going to definitely affect the NFL draft. I think Colorado looked very good, a strong build. Of course, they still have a lot more chances to face as they get to this point here, with a very tough schedule to begin. But I like where they are. I think they're going to do a good job, and I think this is a team that will definitely make some noise this year. And honestly, TCU-wise, I think they really fought in it, and I think they still come out a pretty good team. I just think Colorado is a very good team as well, so I don't expect them to really fall that much. I wouldn't be too worried about them right now. I'd wait a little longer to see how they do in the next couple games, because obviously, of course, new quarterback as Max Duggan is gone. A lot more things you gotta walk out here and see how it fits in, because they did lose a decent amount of pieces to the NFL draft, obviously. Excuse me now, yeah. But, you lost a lot of pieces there, so definitely a lot of things to figure out. But I think TCU will be fine. I think they're in a good position where they're at right now. And we'll see how things go here. But next game I want to talk about here is another big one. And that was Florida State versus LSU. Let's get into this one here. So this is a very close game at halftime. LSU's up to lead 17-14. LSU's defense looked great for the first half. And FSU looked kind of lost, honestly. Offensively, defensively, they weren't the worst. Had a couple, penalties, which isn't the best, but they looked fine. And then FSU's offense did not look very good in the first half. And then the second half came around, and it turned into a little annihilation of LSU by Florida State. So let's just talk into this right now here of how bad of a loss this was for LSU. Because honestly, the first half, I'm not going to say they were completely dominating, but they were controlling all the defensive front. They were getting to the quarterback, and they were doing what they needed to do. And then the second half, obviously, it completely falls apart. And, of course, we all know the final score of the FSU game, like, it got bad in the second half and quick. So the thing of LSU right now is the question is, where on earth is the consistency? Like, where is that right there? Because you're winning the game, and going into halftime, you're up by 3 points. Like, that's not a guarantee you're going to win, but normally it doesn't mean you're going to get blown out in the second half. So clearly there's a lot of issues. I think defensively, they need to work on playing 4 games. I don't think that... They played a great first half. Second half was complete garbage. I'm sorry, but that's what it was. And you need to work on consistency. This LSU defense, I think it has a lot of talent. I really do. And I think it could be a great unit. But it did not show in the second half of that game. Like, I'm sorry. Like, this should have been at least, even if they did lose, should have been a close one-score game. But it wasn't. And I think the consistency there is definitely, something that's been worked out on. I think there's a lot of good things to take away from that first half. But I think for the second half, shred it, burn it, and forget it even happened. I think for LSU. But a massive disappointment there on their front. For FSU, however, on their offensive side, there was some inconsistencies in the first half. I know there's some new pieces transferring coming in. But I think the second half, it really started to shape up, and it was definitely a very good offense. So honestly, on the FSU side, what I would say is, I think they did a great job in that second half. They had some stuff they had to iron out in the first half, obviously. A lot of mistakes. A lot of drop passes. There was no interception. But they fixed it in the second half, and they had a really good offense in the second half, actually. And honestly, with FSU, I think the main thing I'm going to say here is this could be a very dangerous team. I do think that after watching them Sunday night, I mean. But the thing is, you got to have consistency. And I think they're going to have consistency. They just need to get some of these glitzes out that they had in the first half of this game. I think they did that during this game. I liked what I saw. The offense looks very explosive. The defense looked great, of course. And the rest of them, they all looked good, I thought. Especially in the second half, because I really took it over in the second half. And overall, I do think Florida State is probably your favorite right now to win the ACC to this point. And I think it's going to be very interesting how this completely plays out. But I think as of right now, if you're FSU, you need to love where you're at, because this is a great start, especially against LSU, an LSU team that was considered, of course, obviously, a team that could be very good. It is a great start here for FSU, and I like it. LSU-wise, it's pretty concerning, honestly, that game, in my mind. I know it's the beginning of the season, but if you're up at halftime and you blow that lead in the second half, and your offense completely falls off the map, and Jalen Daniels did not look good in that second half. I'm sorry, but he did not look that good. He kept getting hit. Now, of course, obviously, some of that's on the offensive line, but, sometimes you just got to get rid of the ball, and he did not there. And I just think he is kind of an overrated quarterback in my mind. I think he really got himself overrated. I think people think he's better than he actually is, and it completely showed in this game that LSU here, they need some work on recruitment front. I don't think they've recruited as good as they've wanted to. They've had some fall throughs go to other places like Alabama, Georgia. And honestly, I think some of it is just, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of their head coach, Kelly. I'm not, I just don't like him. I'm not saying like he's a bad coach, but I just don't think that he is the best coach out there at this point. Like, when LSU hired him, I thought, maybe he'll work fine, because I was kind of thought Ed Orgeron was a better coach in my mind. And I still do think that, but to this point here, the way they played, I'm sorry, but it was pretty unexcusable. And it's the same stuff that he did when he was in Notre Dame. It's just, they get overconfident, they don't prepare as well as they should, and you know what, it completely fell into a loss. And you're upset after the game, buddy, you didn't prepare well enough. You clearly didn't. You were overconfident, you thought you were going to win, and you didn't. That is the problem with him, in my mind. And that is partially why LSU lost. I think they just, after that first half, they thought, yeah, we're going to win this thing. It's easy. And then they blew it. I'm sorry, but that's time. I just don't think he's a good head coach, in my mind. And I think it really showed in that game on Sunday night. But I think definitely a lot of concern if you're LSU. I don't like the way he started the year, especially against, I do get it's a high opponent, but still, that is concerning after that whole second half. It's a disaster in my mind. FSU, great start to the look, and I think definitely they are probably better than what I thought of them as. So definitely good thing they are, obviously, showing me up. They are definitely a better team than I think. And I do think now, honestly, getting to see them a little more, see how they're fitting in, especially these new pieces, they do look like a battle team, and I do like where they're going to this point here. But we got two more games I'm going to talk about here. And this first one, I'm going to talk about Penn State and WVU, the whiteout game. Now, I myself is a Pitt fan here. So I don't really have a story on this one yet. A couple weeks from now, I'll have a story on the next WVU game because it's the backyard brawl. But honestly, in this game here, I'm going to keep it pretty short because there's not much really to talk about. But Penn State, I think, for the most part, looked good. I think Drew Allard did very well in his first career start. As the quarterback for Penn State starting-wise, I think he did a great job. He really had great command throwing the ball, and he looks like a threat to come. And honestly, Big Ten-wise, I really think, because Ohio State did not have that great of a game. So honestly, right now, is the question here, how good is Ohio State with McCourt as their quarterback? Because he did not look the best. Michigan State looks, Michigan, not Michigan State. Michigan still looks what it did last year. I think it looks very similar. I think it's done well, in my mind. I think they did well. Of course, obviously, they played a pretty crap opponent this week, but, Still, I think they did a good job for the most part in that game. But I think Penn State looked great. I thought defensively they looked good. Now, granted, we'll get into why they looked good later here. But I think overall, it did look good. I liked what I saw, and I think definitely a lot of great things to build around. And I think Penn State, if there was a year for them to compete in the college football playoffs, it's going to be this season. I really do think. And this is the year when it finally starts off. They've been working to something for the last couple years now, and it really is showing and paying off here. And I think this is the first year they have something special. And what I would say about their quarterback, Drew Allard, is I think this is the first Penn State quarterback that could actually turn into something very good at the NFL level. I think this guy has great potential, and I'm not saying the sky's the limit here for this guy. So I think there's a limit before the sky, but I think he can definitely be a superstar in all college football and can turn into something special at the NFL level. So I think Penn State has something very special in this guy, and I think definitely got to watch for it. But right now, the way it looks, I think I thought it was a great game from Penn State. I do think this is a great building block, and I think they could definitely have a couple more big wins, especially if they can beat Ohio State or Michigan. Could make some big noise in the college football playoffs, but great win for them. On the WVU side, Neil Brown needs to be followed. I'm not even a fan of WVU. Honestly, I'm a Pitt fan. I really, I don't really like them at all that much. I don't really hate them because I'm not that big of a Pitt fan, but, I don't like them that much. They're kind of, But Neil Brown is an actual joke. I'm sorry. But how many years has he been in this program now, and how many years has it been awful? It's bad when Pat McAfee has to go on a show and literally blast you. It's just what has happened to their football program if in, the last, I'd say, 10 years, but honestly. They've fallen off the map. This is at once a very proud, good football program that has now gone off the rails and has pretty much fallen into the Shenandoah Valley, of course that's West Virginia land, and crashed, burned, and started a wildfire, and then all the Mountaineers couldn't get out. That is pretty much a perfect analogy for what's going on in WVU right now. And not just in the sports, too, because, the whole Bob Huggins situation, I'm not even going to get into that one, but it's a good thing he is not a coach anymore, because you should not be driving drunk in Pittsburgh doing Taylor Swift concerts. That's not a good recipe for anything, honestly. But, yeah, definitely, it's just the academics, too, they're cutting massive programs, language departments. There's multiple students losing their whole majors and everything. WVU, just in general as a school, is a complete mess right now. And their football team is a perfect example of it. A complete disaster on all fronts. Their quarterback did not do well at all. I don't think he's that good. It just doesn't look as good. At least in the Black Girl Bowl last year, even though they lost, they at least looked decent. You know what I mean? They didn't look like complete garbage. They actually looked like they could be a good team, honestly. They could win a couple games, maybe be in the Big Ten conversation as a dark horse. This year, I get Penn State's a better team than Pitt, but it should have been at least closer than what it was. This was a flat-out disaster, and honestly, this whole season, really. Because if things keep going the way it is, there was no way they're being Pitt. And honestly, I can't see them getting that far at all in anything here if they continue to play the way that they have. And I think, honestly, what for WU, what they really need is they need a complete change of the guard. Everything gone. Honestly, their athletic director, head coaches, for some of the big programs that are struggling right now, they just need to go back to square one and rethink, what are we doing here? How are we going to win? How are we going to get better on our opponents? Bring in the good recruits and get this ship right on track. Because right now it's completely, off the rails for the most part. And honestly, it's something you gotta fix, and I think it's gonna be a long, grueling process to get this fixed. But it's something that needs to be started right now. Because right now, as we sit here, there was no way on earth WU, the way it's standing out, is going to be a good football team again until they go back to square one and rebuild everything. I know it sounds pretty, extreme, but honestly, it's gotten to the point where, just in general, they have to. It just looks like a broken program to me. I don't see what the benefit is here. They have a bunch of recruits leaving because, they don't want to be there anymore. And honestly, you can't blame them. I just think right now, WU, it needs a ton of work, and they need a new head coach to take over on that job. So, WU fans, I do feel for you guys a little bit here. Not that much because I'm a Pitt fan, but I do feel it because this is pretty bad. But yeah, definitely a lot of this horrible stuff on WVU's front that they gotta fix. Because it was once a great, football program, and honestly, I'd love to see it be a great football program. So, the rivals are like Pitt and Penn State, these games could actually be fun, entertaining games. But they really have not been. The Pitt one was, it was entertaining for the most part till the end when it just kind of fell off the rails for West Virginia. But, this game this weekend was awful. Completely should have been a lot better than what it was. But moving on here to the final game I'm going to talk about here. That was a big game here. And that was Clemson and Duke last night. Clemson. What happened now? Because what I saw last night was you guys get utterly destroyed by Duke. Now, I'm not saying Duke's a bad team at all. I actually think they have a pretty good team. I think ACC-wise, they're normally one of the better football teams there. Though Pitt does normally beat them. I will say that. But Pitt is also one of the better teams in the ACC as well. So, it does go back and forth. But, what is happening? I just don't know what exactly, the offense just completely fell off the map. Cade Kubalik just did not look good at all. And honestly, you gotta know, I know it's the first game, so some of it's jitters and stuff, stuff out, week one. But this is a game that just did not look good for them. It was concerning, really, for the offense. I think the defense wasn't the worst. Of course, it was 28-7, but, they kept them to 28 Duke. If the offense would have actually produced, this would have been a game. I don't really think as much fault needs to be put on the Clemson defense as does the offense. I think the defense, it wasn't perfect. I didn't think it was that good. But it was good enough to at least, if the offense would have, actually done something, would have been good. But it clearly just wasn't. I think a lot of work needs to be done on that front as well here to really get it back to where it needs to be. But to this point here, Clemson, hopefully this is just a one-time thing, just getting through some of the rust off from the off-season. I kind of feel like that's probably what it is more than anything. I think just the LSU offense, it is a new quarterback on the center. There are some new pieces. I think maybe it's more just time to develop. I don't think it's oh my god, this whole offense is going to be completely awful. I don't think that's the case at all. I just think some of it's more the off-season rust, and I think just overall, like I said, kind of LSU, I think there was a little bit of confidence going in there, thinking, yeah, we're the better team. We don't need to worry that much. It's just Duke. And, you see what happens here again, the overconfidence. I think some of that may play. No, do I think it's to the extreme of the LSU game? Why was? No, I don't. But I think there was definitely some of that there as well. But I think overall, honestly, Clemson, I'm not too worried about them. I think their offense, there's new pieces there, obviously. New quarterback on the center. It's going to take some time. They'll get used to it. I don't think they're as good as people are saying, obviously. They're not the ninth best team in the country at all. They are not. But I think they can be a consistent, good team this year. with this some more development and work. I think Kate Kubalik, this is fourth year starting. I'm not really gonna judge him insanely hard just because we all know how fourth year quarterbacks are. They have a very mixed bag, and we'll see what happens here. But overall, I think for the most part, I'm not as concerned really as say like the LSU, and this front of they didn't look good at all. Like I'm not worried about that. The main thing I was just say is if they go in and they work hard, they'll get that consistency, and I think Clemson will be fine. I'm not too worried about that. Now, moving on to the Duke side. This was great for them. Honestly, this was a great win. I did not see this happening. I thought Clemson would at least, have it in the back here. But that was just a great win by them. I think their quarterback did very well last night. It's overall in general, like it was impressive. It's just an impressive game. I think the Duke defense really came out and they really were able to stifle the Clemson offense pretty bad. And I think honestly, overall, I think Duke had a great, solid game on both fronts. And really, I think Duke has a lot to be excited about this year. I think, from what I saw in this game, I think they can definitely be competitors in the ACC, in that race to win the ACC. I honestly think right now, the way it sits here, if Clemson does get back, then obviously, of course, Clemson's in it. But I don't know exactly how much they're going to get back here to this point. But I think Duke could definitely be a player, If you can pull off wins like this and consistently play the way you did on last night, this is a team that can be a very good team and can definitely be a threat to some big scores, honestly. I think this is definitely a team, if they work hard enough, they will get there. And I think, overall, it was a great statement win for Duke to say, of course, because a lot of times they're seen as, oh, Duke's just a basketball school. This was a statement win saying, no, we're not just a basketball school. We also are decently good at football. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying they won't beat us like anyone, but, they are a decent to good football school depending on the year. Like, they're very up and down, and I think this is one of their up years, and they really showed it with that win over LSU. Clemson, not LSU, Clemson. But, yeah, definitely I think overall, great win for Duke, and Clemson has a lot of questions to answer, but I'm not that concerned about them to this point. And that pretty much will do it here for Week 1 of college football recap here, and we'll be back next week for Week 2 after all those games are played. And I'll break that down more for you guys here, but thank you guys for watching. If you are watching here, please comment, like, and subscribe on YouTube, and we have many more football videos, more NFL. I'm getting into college now, but I got a whole bunch of NFL ones. So if you enjoyed this video, go check out some of my NFL ones, and thank you guys for watching. Have a good one.